even really good, experienced singers, as they get older, have vocal coaches and vocal trainers. And I do wonder whether or not he either has or needs to think about one. Not from the point of view of the performance he gave at the weekend. I'm thinking more of the preservation of his voice for a run of concerts.
Well, it was meant to be the night so many fans had been waiting for. Liam Gallagher, the frontman for Oasis, performing live at the boxing fight between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois at Wembley Stadium on Saturday night. This was Liam's first big performance since he and brother Noel announced they were finally heading back on tour after a tumultuous fallout, having not performed as Oasis since 2009. So as 96,000 people watched on at the stadium and many more tuning in live on TV, Liam Gallagher's 3-song performance was met with mixed reviews. Performing hits from Oasis's Definitely Maybe album, the younger Gallagher brother belted out Rock and Roll Star, Supersonic and Cigarettes and Alcohol. So why weren't fans ecstatic with the performance?
I'm surprised that so many people are speaking so vitriolically against his performance. He's interesting, Liam, because you know what you're going to get. And it's always been that way. Even his own brother said, Liam only does 11. It's top level. It's sing at 11 and a half. You don't have the light and shade. He's not going to, sound like an old crooner and back off from the mic. I mean, it's why his brother Noel sings Don't Look Back in Anger sweetly. Liam can sing sweetly, and some of his solo stuff, he has sung songs on his album where you get a slightly lighter side to him. But when you're singing Rock and Roll Star, Supersonic and Cigarettes and Alcohol, they are designed. They are songs with the intent of singing them in that way. So as somebody who would be the first to critique it and say, that I think it was awful if it was, I can't say that it was awful. It was actually the performance that you would expect to get from him, from a man of a certain age who strains his voice and his neck when he sings anyway. And the trouble is, I think he's doing more of this straining of the neck. That's not going to help how he sounds. That's not going to help his voice as he gets older. He should look after his voice anyway.
The reviews were certainly mixed after what has been a much anticipated performance ahead of next year's reunion tour. So what have people been saying about it? Well, the online commentary shows a lot of people hated it, while some think that Liam is just as talented as he's always been. One person wrote, "To be honest, I thought the ref should have stepped in and stopped it." Another said, "How many people looking for refunds after listening to this utter garbage? Liam Gallagher is done. Sounds like some dodgy impersonator." Another wrote, "I find it quite hilarious that people are complaining about Liam Gallagher and Oasis and the singing quality. I said this at the time the overpriced tickets were released. They could not sing in the 1990s. It is unlikely to have improved now. Most of the people who would enjoy this concert would do so simply because it brought back good memories for them of their lives at the time. And you sounded like a squealing cat. I wouldn't pay 5p to see you. Finally, I had to mute the TV. It was like scratching a plate with cutlery." While some had Liam's back, barking back at the haters who thought the 52-year-old was lacking talent.
It's so subjective. It's the fact that now that they've set themselves up to earn so much money from a run of concerts which have had an inordinate amount of publicity across the world about them getting back together, there's now going to be huge scrutiny for whatever they do. And I think this is just part and parcel of that. He was damned if he damned if he didn't. I mean, all the guitars sounded loud. One thing I will say, he was absolutely in tune. I have heard worse during those lockdown concerts that they did around the world. Do you remember when Elton John and Lady Gaga and so on did those? And the famous Elton John I'm Till Tandin episode, which that sounded worse, and people were saying, what on earth is going on with Elton's voice? I thought that sounded strained and far worse than Liam sounded over the weekend. It's just Liam doing Liam.
And of course, the backlash online prompted a very angry response from Liam himself. He wrote on X, "To all those who were crying about my angelic tones last night, you ain't real fans, you're just imposters. And if you do have tickets you want to get rid of, I'll gladly take them off your hands. We don't want the likes of you at our concerts next year anyway."
They were quite amusing. It was very funny till saying, one begins with S and then it ends with S. I wonder what expletive he's used there. I almost wanted to stick that one into Google or AI and find out what new expletives. There were some expletives there I hadn't even heard of myself. I was making some up, which were fantastic. But so they've got to be careful on that basis, because if they're taking the money, and clearly there will have been a huge fee paid for what he did at the weekend, and either of them agree to do something either as a duo or individually that's I'm not saying the Super Bowl, but something in the Middle East or some high fee paying gig that gets roundly criticised between now and then, it could have a huge reputational impact on how their concerts are viewed even ahead of them happening. And of course, we know that British media and the press are quite good in this country at building people up and then knocking them down again. And this will be no different.
But because it was Liam's first performance since the tour announcement was made last month, it does beg the question, will Oasis keep up that pandemonium they had when fans rejoiced over the fact that the brothers were finally getting back together? Or will people actually sell their tickets the way they say they will?
Well, I mean, if they make it till summer, if there isn't something else that happens in the meantime that causes them to pull out or what have you, I can see why people might want to sell their tickets, mainly to make a profit, because if they were in that first flush of people that got them at a decent price, then maybe some people are saying they're going to get rid of them because they're going to fall in value. Who knows? Because it has been turned into some kind of marketization of ticket sales, which is a whole other issue in itself. But as for the negative comments, I noticed online there were also comments from people saying, "Oh, this is just mealy-mouthed naysayers who didn't get their tickets, and now they're disgruntled because they didn't get their tickets, so they want to make themselves feel better by going on and criticising his performance because they secretly wanted tickets and couldn't get any." And I've heard that as well.
Whether or not Liam and Noel have actually reunited and buried the hatchet, does the older Gallagher brother, the songwriter behind the band, have any anger over whether Liam's Saturday night performance could affect sales or the momentum of the tour?
I think there'll be conversations within management, bearing in mind that they have two different managers up to now, over how much exposure they give to themselves between now and those concerts. I think looking at it from a public relations and reputation management perspective, which is kind of me putting on my more recent hat, I suppose, from the days of when I was, on the radio and interviewing bands like that, with my more modern crisis PR head, I would be far more cautious about them being seen and performing at things individually and separately to when they do these concerts. Virgin Radio.